What is housing discrimination in the New York City shelter system when you are a voucher holder? Stay here. We're going to do this a little bit different. I have tons of information here that I'm going to read from my notes so I can cascade it to you very clearly so I don't miss anything. So, in this guide that I'm about to read to you, it provides an overview about housing discrimination with focus on housing vouchers and subsidies, okay? It defines housing and source of income discrimination, outlines common tactics landlord may use to discriminate against low-income New Yorkers and those with vouchers, and explains the laws to protect against such practices. Additionally, it provides clarity and practical steps for identifying and reporting discrimination, which a lot of you guys don't do, and details on how to make that complaint and legal resources for help and further information. So there's different types of discrimination. There's housing discrimination, there's source of discrimination. So we're gonna get into what is housing discrimination, and you're going to want to save this video because, like I always say, education is power. And if you are holding a voucher, if you are looking to coming to our New York City shelters, you have to be smart. You have to know how to clap back. All right, let's get into it. What is housing discrimination? So housing discrimination happens when a landlord, property manager, broker, or other housing provider treats someone unfairly based on protected characteristics. Under New York State and New York City law, protected characteristics include race, color, sex, gender identity, disability, religion, sex orientation, lawful source of income like Section A housing vouchers, immigration status, and more. So there you go, right? That's what that looks like. And you are protected under the New York City law. What is source of income discrimination? You guys know that. We talk about that in my pop-up lives all the time. Max, he's trying to get comfortable. Source of income discrimination occurs when a landlord, real estate agent, and other provider refuses to accept a housing voucher or subsidy to treat a tenant less well due to the provider, provider refuses to accept. Okay, hold on. Or subsidy, or treats a tenant less well due to the tenant's use of a housing voucher or subsidy, or otherwise treats someone differently because of their unlawful source of income. This practice is illegal under New York City and New York State law. Lawful sources of income include housing vouchers like Section 8 and rental assistance programs like City FEPS, SODA, FEPS, and HASA. Under the law, landlords must also accept security deposit vouchers and a one-time emergency grants, one-shot deals, which we talk about them all the time, that cover rent, security deposits, moving costs, and broker fees. So now we know what is source of income discrimination, right? We know what that looks like, and now we are going to know how to identify that. Okay, how do I know if I've been discriminated against based on my source of income? If you may have experienced discrimination based on your source of income if a housing provider or real estate agent, okay, let's go through the bullet points, refuses to rent or sell to you on the bias of your source of income by saying things like no vouchers or working people only, refuses to fill out necessary voucher paperwork, discourages you from applying to an apartment based on your source of income, requires you to move in right away and will not wait for the unit to get inspected or for the paperwork to be approved, sets applications requirements that would be impossible for you to meet the voucher, such as imposing a minimum income requirement. Example, you must earn 40 times the rent to apply, which we see that all the time. Cuts off communication or ghosts you after you mention having a housing voucher, often to avoid open discriminating. You may have experienced other forms of housing discrimination. If a housing provider for a real estate agent asks about your immigration status or requires a social security number or card, under the New York City law, this constitutes perceived immigration status or national origin discrimination. Quotes different rent or sale prices or contract lease terms because of your protected characteristics. Represents that an apartment is no longer available even though it remains to still be on the website. Limits the number of people or children that can live in the apartment. Under Most, but not all, circumstances that constitutes discrimination based on family status, marital status, partnership status, or the presence of children, refuses to make an accommodation based on household member's disability, or denies your application for having an emotional support or service animal. You see where I'm going with this? This is why you have to save this and keep listening to it so you understand what all of this looks like. So if you are ever in a situation, you know how to respond in the right, correct way. What laws protect me from housing discrimination in New York City? New York City laws offer some of the strongest protections in the country against housing discrimination. Y'all don't know, we do, including source of income discrimination. In addition, the New York State human rights law prohibits source of income discrimination statewide. The Federal Fair Housing Act offers more limited protection, but also prohibits discrimination based on race, color, sex, religion, and status of families and disabilities. What should I do if I think I've been discriminated against? Document what happened. Write everything down, dates, names, and what was said or done. Save evidence such as advertisements, listing, application, emails, texts, witness statements, and voicemails. In New York State, you can legally record phone calls or in-person conversations without the consent of a real estate agent. This is not legal in every state. To report the discrimination or seek assistance, you can contact the following government agencies or organizations. First one is New York City Commission of Human Rights. Second one is New York State Division of Human Rights. Third one is Fair Housing Justice Center. You can also report discrimination to the Legal Aid Society by calling the neighborhood office in your borough. Complaints. What does that look like? How long do I have to file a complaint? If you are filing a complaint with New York City Commission on Human Rights or the New York State Division of Human Rights, you must file your complaint within 1 year. Under most circumstances, you have to file your complaint within 3 years if you choose to sue in court. You must choose only one place to file your complaint, but you can choose between court, federal court, or the New York Supreme Court. New York City Supreme Court, the New York City Commission on Human Rights and New York State Division on Human Rights. Does it cost money to file a complaint with the city or state? No. Filing a complaint with the New York City Commission on Human Rights or the New York State Division Human Rights is free. You may also qualify for free legal assistance through non-for-profits or legal services organizations. In court, fees may apply, but you can request a fee waiver if you are low income. What happens after I file a complaint with an agency? The city or state agency will investigate your claim. If the agency finds discrimination occurred, they may take a variety of corrective actions. They can order the landlords or brokers to provide you with the housing or pay you damages money. The city and state can also monitor the landlord or broker business to force them to change their policies to request that they provide you housing. Where can I get more information about source of income discrimination? You can look on the New York State Division of Human Rights, and they have created guidance so you can definitely understand what that looks like and how it will help you in your housing journey. I hope that this video helps someone and really, gives you the education you need of what housing discrimination looks like, what is source of income discrimination, and how do you know if you've been discriminated against, and what happens after you file a complaint with an agency. So save this video, repost it. There's a lot of people coming into our New York City shelters that need to have a elementary school level of what all of this looks like. It's a very interesting way to go about things. So hope this is helpful. Mom.3 girls, talk to you soon.